Now that we've learned a thing or two about classes, let's take a look at an actual demo. I'm going to jump to Visual Studio to illustrate what it looks like. So here I have my performer class that's open up. I also have a person class. I have a program class. Let's start with the program class. It's a pretty small class. I'm going to zoom out and show you how small the class is. This is the entire class itself. I'm going to zoom in to a couple of parts of it here so we can see better. So first we have var p1 equals new person. Let's zoom in a little more. There you go. So var p1 equals new person initializes new person object with the person's default constructor. So with this constructor, we've initialized the person object without passing in any values. This is different from var p2, which is also initialized as a new person, but we're passing in 1995. If you recall, the person class has a constructor that takes in the birth year. So this birth year, 1995, overrides whatever value we had initially. So P1 becomes a person with the birth year of 2014. P2 becomes a new person with the birth year of 1995. P1 can be used to call different public methods such as do things. P2 can be used to do the same things. In this case, we're using P2 to write out the age of the person. Finally, we have an address here that we're building out over multiple lines. We can create a new address object and initialize line 1 and country to a specific value to create that address. Next, we have a P3 object that we're initializing not as a person, but as a performer, which is still a person. So John Wayne here is a stage name for this performer, and address is the address we just built right above here. So we're passing it to this John Wayne performer. Finally, we can write out the person's stage name by using p3.getStageName. Now, getStageName is a public method that we can call from the person object, or rather the performer object, and we say John Wayne's country is, and it'll come out to be USA. So how does this work? p3.getStageName returns the words John Wayne, and then after that, we have p3.mailingaddress.country. If you recall, mailing address is a complex object, and country is just some text within that address. So these are different ways to not only initialize an object, but also get pieces of it. We've seen the performer class earlier. Let me jump to it and show you really quick. We have the performer constructor here, and we have getStageName, which formats the stage name with some square brackets around it. And finally, we have the initial person object, which starts out with a birth year of 2014. It has an auto age, and it also has things like health and additional constructors. So we saw all this in the sample code we looked at initially. Let's go ahead and run this program by clicking on the Start button. So the results we see here are actually pretty simple. We have process number 55, and we also have process text, Xbox, followed by all things done. So where did all this come from? Well, we initialized a new person, and then we also printed out some values to the screen. Well, p1.doThings actually called two private methods, which processed a number and some text, which is why you see the first two values for processing the number and some text. All things done shows that the doThings method was called. Finally, we have P2 being initialized with 1995 as the birth year. So an auto age value in this case should be 20 because the real year today is 2015. If you run this on a future date, you will have the auto age being calculated with the correct date. So in this case, P2's age is 20. Finally, we have the birth year being written out. Let me zoom back out here so you can see the rest of the code. So let me zoom in one more time. There you go. So the last line here is John Wayne's country is USA. So p3.getStageName shows you the text John Wayne in square brackets. And then p3.mailingaddress gets you the address object. And if you say .country, it gets you the country within that mailing address. So again, this is one way that object-oriented programming works. You create a new object, and you can get little pieces of the object simply by using dot notation. And that is the end of our demo for classes and methods.